Hey, this is just going to be a real quick video. This is in a response to the video clearing something up, and I can't pronounce this guy's name. I'm just going to call him Jay. I'll put his name to the side over there. He basically wants to know what the difference between atheist and agnostic is, and why his video is directed toward King Heathen, and King Heathen answered it, and I think he did a pretty good job answering it, but I wanted to cover the more specifics. There's atheism and agnosticism kind of handle two separate issues, really. Agnosticism, well, each one has its own opponent. Agnosticism, the opposite of that is Gnosticism. Gnosticism comes from, I think it's Greek, which means gnosis, which it means it has to do with knowledge. Agnostic means you are without knowledge. It essentially answers the question of whether God is knowable or unknowable. Then, of course, atheist, the opposite to that is, of course, theist. Which is, of course, someone who has a belief in God. An atheist is someone who lacks that belief in God. Most atheists are also agnostic. They are what would be called agnostic theists. Agnostic atheists. Sorry. There are a few agnostic theists. However, most theists are what are known as Gnostic theists. Now there's also something called Gnostic Christianity, which is something different entirely. I'm not going to get into that. You can look that up for yourself if you'd like. Atheism and agnosticism answer two different. They're two different answers to two different questions. Most atheists are agnostic. And most people that call themselves agnostic are probably more than likely atheists. They just don't want to give themselves that label because of the social stigma that is associated with it. The reason more and more people are calling themselves atheists instead of agnostic is to try and remove that stigma from the lack of belief in a God. So basically the idea is you either think that it's knowable whether or not God exists, or you think that it's unknowable whether or not God exists. You think it's and that's the intellectual aspect, and then there's the belief aspect. There's you believe in God or you don't believe in God. Most theists think that it is possible to know whether God exists, and they believe in God. Most atheists don't think it's possible for God to exist, and they don't believe in God. Now, that's a generalization, of course. There's a lot of atheists that do think it's possible to know whether or not God exists, and they make a firm statement of God definitely does not exist. And there are a lot of theists that say, I could be wrong, maybe God doesn't exist, but I choose to believe in God. So really when somebody gives themselves the label of an agnostic, it's a little bit of intellectual dishonesty. And I think it's just to sort of protect themselves. It's to say, it's so that they don't lump themselves, because the majority of theists have this sort of demonizing campaign against the idea of what an atheist is, and so I think people that label themselves as agnostic are trying to avoid that demonic image that theists create, and that's the end of my video. Okay, thank you. Goodbye.